2464 Pod. Nick Fazekas, John Ramey with you. And we are visiting on Monday, the 20th of January. Happy MLK Day, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the holiday. Nevada is coming off a surprisingly normal win over San Jose State. The Pack with an 11-point victory, 75-64. 3 o'clock game, afternoon game. Folks were there. Almost 7,800. San Jose State, on paper, better than Air Force and Fresno State by a lot. Their net was 179 coming into the game. And, Nick, I think this was Nevada's most consistent effort in a conference victory this year. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And a victory, like you said, I think that's the capped up letters there of the victory that we got. I mean, obviously, going back to the New Mexico game, that was a very consistent effort. Just didn't get that one done. But yeah, you like how they started. You like how they finished. You kind of just like the whole thing to where it was kind of like, yeah, this is the Pack that looks like a team to be reckoned with, especially in the Mountain West. Just kind of just felt like leaning on San Jose the whole entire game and just kind of, just looked a lot more consistent, like you said.
Spartans were good. I was pretty impressed with Tim Miles' team. They were physical, they were athletic, and Nevada dealt with that really well. It was funny, like Nevada was having more trouble asserting an athleticism advantage against Air Force than they did against a much more athletic San Jose State team. So maybe they've got something figured out. And also, I don't want to make this too reductive, but if Xavier Ducel's going to shoot 5 or make 5 threes in a game, Nevada's tough to beat. It really does kind of cancel out a lot of other issues.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we talked about in the beginning of the year, this team just felt like they were such a great three-point shooting team, and it just didn't feel like there was too many problems scoring the basketball and getting into the high 70s, 80s. And then kind of ran into a roadblock after the tournament there in South Carolina, and just kind of felt like all of a sudden it was like, how can we score? Nevada is struggling to score, is struggling to get to 60, struggling to get, you know what I mean? And so when you're able to, like you said, get 5 threes out of any individual, especially Xavier, I mean, that's just going to be a huge bonus. And yeah, like you said, hopefully it can kind of keep this sort of thing going, keep the ball going, kind of move in that right direction to where it's like maybe getting to 75, 80 isn't such an issue anymore, because once that kind of happens, you've got some of these teams in the league that will struggle to play catch up if you can get to that 75, 80 number.
You mentioned ball movement. I thought Nevada looked much more comfortable in their offense, both in half court and in transition, and the ball movement was crisp, and it led to better shots, I thought.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest, a little bit of me kind of noticed that they saw a little bit of zone, like when we first started Mountain West play, which just felt like it really messed the rhythm up of what Nevada had going, kind of offensively. Felt like early in the year there wasn't a whole lot of zone looks, and it just kind of felt like something that they weren't going to have to really worry about. And then it's Colorado State and Utah State that play this zone, and everyone kind of just was not really playing hot potato. It was more like hold the ball as long as you can, and then that kind of just really screwed up a lot of rhythm and timing. Feels like the more times that they have kind of seen the zone, it's obviously led to better man-to-man offense plus better zone defense or zone offense. So, you just wonder if it took a little bit of sort of seasoning of seeing so much zone that now it's kind of like, well, hey, guys, this could be the potential of what we see. But if not, we have the man-to-man in place.
That's interesting. I mean, facing a zone defense, especially – well, I guess just facing a zone defense, there are kind of basic prescriptions you apply as an offense, right?
I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, it's a 2-3 zone. You try to get it to the high post. You try to get it down in the short corner. You're shooting threes from the wings. Yes, you said, a prescription. It's not like, I mean, you could probably call Jim Boeheim and ask him about how to beat his 2-3 zone, and it would just be like what everyone else is doing in the country. So,
but it took Nevada a little bit of time to
figure it out,
to be able to do it, right, to execute.
Yeah. And I mean, having sometimes right personnel in zone and having guys that maybe flourish in certain parts of the zone, that could definitely be very beneficial. You know, you have a guy that really likes to play out of the high post and he can make that skip pass and sort of things like that. That's a huge bonus to a team that's being zoned a lot. Or you have a guy that can just shoot the lights out. All of a sudden, the team's going to be like, okay, we're not playing zone. This guy's 4 for 4 from three. We're going to have to come out of this zone. But when things go stagnant, the ball stops moving. That's exactly what the defense is looking for.
How about Chuck Bailey? I love his energy off the bench. He's getting more minutes. He only scored 2 points in the last game, but I'm rooting for him. I mean, Coach had him and McBride on a coach's show our last coach's show, and he's like, "Look, these guys are the future." I mean, Bailey's young, McBride's
Yeah.
young, but what are you seeing out of Chuck?
I mean, yeah, like you said, the energy. It's a lot of stuff that he's doing out there that doesn't maybe show up on the stat sheet, right? I mean, you look at the stat sheet and it's 2 points and it's kind of just pedestrian. But you watch the game, and as a fan or even as a person that understands basketball, you understand what he's bringing, and you understand that energy and that defensive energy and those loose balls and sorts of things like that. Maybe the reads he's making, the passes he's making, that maybe is a hockey assist that doesn't show up on the basketball
Sure.
stat sheet. That is the big bonus. And yeah, like Steve said, I mean, some of these guys are young and Steve's been searching, right? And now all of a sudden it's kind of like, well, maybe we make the youth movement, and these guys are going to be hungry. They want to play. They're eager to play. And I mean, it's kind of like we've talked about before on this podcast, where it's like, give Steve a reason to put you in the game.
And make it hard for him to take you out.
Yeah, very true.
Also, we should point out Bailey, no fouls in his 7 minutes and 25
Uh,
seconds. Right? I mean, it's the things you don't do that keep you
it
in the
really
game.
is. It really is. And it's just, I've had plenty of teammates in the past, have watched plenty of basketball to where, like, if you're not, you don't have to be a savant, but like you got to kind of have understanding of like this guy's doing things that are adding up to like making the other four guys better, or the team is feeding off of him and his energy and things like that. To where that they don't put that on a stat sheet. There's no energy column for the stat sheet. So I just think sometimes those kind of guys are guys that can ultimately be a very key piece to a team that has a lot of talent and has a very high ceiling. They're just looking for that extra sort of spark or that sort of like glue guy.
Did you ever feel this way as a player? Like, I mean, I am blessed to be able to cover multiple sports, right? Football, baseball, and basketball primarily, some soccer. But like in hoops, it seems extra apparent. And maybe it's just because of the scale of the game. It's a smaller scale game and indoors, but there's just nowhere to hide. So when somebody is on the floor, even if it's not in the box score, you can sense the effect they're having on their teammates on the other team. Is that consistent with your experience?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's five players on the floor. Like, that's just, like you said, it is hard to hide. There's only 10 guys out there. I mean,
Like
it's
you'll get
kind of like,
exposed quickly.
oh, quickly, quickly.
Yeah.
Funny you say this. We just had this discussion with my son about his 6-year-old basketball games where it's like, dude, like they can see what's you're not doing. You know what I mean? So, like, it's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I mean, I think even too, like, as crazy as it sounds, basketball, you're not wearing a helmet, you're not wearing a hat,
Yep.
you're not, you know what I mean? Like, you can see the face with the number, with the last name, and it's like very. I mean, at the end of the day, how many guys are really checking into the game? There's 8 or 9 guys that are really only playing, and yeah, you can get exposed pretty easily. But at the same time, you put the shoe on the other foot, it works out kind of nicely where it's like, holy cow, like Chuck Bailey's like, he's making a difference tonight. Like, look at this. Like, look at when he's in the game. Look at the runs we've gone on. Look at the defensive energy we have. Look at there's a lot of different things where it's like, if you're one of those guys that's not always in the game, and then all of a sudden you get those 7, 8, 10 minutes and the team plays well while you're in the game, then yeah, of course. I'm sure a lot of fans and a lot of different people that are watching the game can see when Chuck's in that game, we're starting to move in the right direction.
I should point out he was also minus 11 and plus minus in his 7.5 minutes, but plus minus is a little squirrely.
It's
It's tough to assign it on one guy because Chuck wasn't getting
100%.
burned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the plus minus looks, I would say plus minus for a like a body of a season or maybe half of a season is lot more relevant than it could be for
One
just
game.
one specific game or two
That's good.
specific games. Um, I can remember back when I was a player, it's just like sometimes bad teams just end up in the minus quite a bit. You end up losing games, or you go on a losing streak, and it's like, well, we're playing these guys, and it's like, well, go ahead and try to play these other guys, and we'll see what
Right.
this turns into. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes it can be a tiny bit skewed as to what that plus minus totally tells, or if it's telling the whole story.
I don't think it would be a 2-4-6-4 episode if we didn't talk about Nick Davidson, who had 23 and 7. And I believe he had a double double in the last game. I mean, his upward trajectory as the focal point within the offense and within the program continues. Kobe 13 points, 5 of 11, but he had 8 assists. I thought they both played really well.
And yeah, it goes back to what we've talked about before, where it's like those guys are getting the brunt of the minutes. Steve is relying on Kobe and Nick to play at this level. Like this is a level that you're expected to play at every single night. And when it happens, you see how which way Nevada's going to go. I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Nevada when those guys are going. And so it's reassuring when you can see guys like Nick and Kobe put together 2, 3, 4 in a row to where it's like, are we finding a rhythm with these guys? Are they finding their rhythm? Are they starting to kind of, just kind of figure things out a little bit better? Which is, again, I think as a Pac fan, I think it's reassuring when you go out there and, like you said, Nick goes double double, 23 and 7. Now you're going on the road against a tough Utah State team, and it's like, okay, here we go. Like you need to show up, on Wednesday night.
All right, so you're doing the game with me Wednesday night from Logan, Utah, and Nevada played Utah State real tough, losing 69-64 in Reno on New Year's Eve. The thing I remember about that game was Ian Martinez, who was like the second best scorer on the team coming into that game, was completely muzzled until the last 6.5 minutes, and he finished with 17 points. Like Ian Martinez went on a one-man run that essentially won the game for Utah State. What are your takeaways as you recall from that last game, and how are you kind of envisioning the matchup? Because look, at Logan, one of the toughest places to play
Yeah.
in all of college basketball.
Well, like you said, we're calling the game together, which will be another fun, hostile environment.
We only
Just
go to the tough
going,
places, you and me.
yeah, we only do the hard ones. But
Yeah,
New Mexico was the same way. We're sitting there in front of
yeah.
almost 15,000 people, very hostile environment. Nevada sort of came out, struggled in the beginning. It's like Logan may be a tad more hostile from what I remember. I never played in the pit, but like it could be a tad bit more hostile down there in
It's
Logan.
something in
But
the milk.
it's definitely in there. But yeah, I mean, Nevada just it seems that, on the road, maybe that's maybe it's not like we've played poorly on the road. I don't know. We have played pretty well on the road, I would say. Obviously, the wins and losses aren't really, adding up to that, but like maybe the road is kind of like where everyone kind of feels maybe a little bit more comfortable, which to say, it's hard to say, but um I just like the fact that where this team is trending going into that Utah State game. And like you said, on that New Year's Eve night, it was a lot of different things that could have really just went Nevada's way. Martinez, just like you said, went on a one-man show and kind of just walked out of there, kind of stole a win from Nevada, as you could almost say. But knowing that, you kind of like where Nevada sits and the chances of walking into Utah State and maybe pulling off the upset.
And UNLV beat Utah State. Obviously, San Jose State beat New Mexico last week. So the top two teams aren't going to run away with it now. And I mean, we just talked about this a little bit before we got going. Like, Nevada's what, 3 games in the loss column out of first place? I mean, they're not.
No.
This is anybody's league still. I suppose you can write off Air Force and Fresno State, but maybe not. It's. I don't know what to make of the Mountain West this year, but that might be good for the Pac.
I think, yeah, I think that's the fun part about, conference play is that like any given night, anyone can beat anybody. And that's what's kind of always been fun about conference play. That's what I remember most about conference play was like, you got to show up, lace them up and be ready to go, whether you're on the road, whether you're at home. Some teams are coming in with nothing to lose. Some teams are coming in with some pressure. It's just a lot of different things that come with conference play. But again, like I've kind of reiterated, it's like, it's conference play. Everyone's in the Mountain West. It's not like we're playing the ACC or, you know what I mean? Like everyone's in this conference as sort of, as an equal, and it kind of just plays out the way that it plays out. But that's kind of the fun and exhilarating part of watching conference play, where it's like any given night, anyone can beat anybody.
All right. So yeah, Nick and I will be from the Smith Spectrum live, 5:30 Pacific, 6 o'clock Pacific tip at Utah State on Wednesday, the 22nd. We, of course, are going to drop this. We're recording this Monday, January 20th. We'll get this out this afternoon. So folks can listen. You want to tease that that broadcast at all, Nick? You got any stories from the Spectrum you want to share?
Oh, do I have any stories? I just
That's all right. I put you on the spot. It's okay if you don't.
I don't know if I have any stories. I just remember walking into that gym, and it just, the baskets were almost. I remember almost felt like the baskets were like cemented into the floor. Like wasn't
they
are,
like and then they have like they have like the ship's rigging, going to the ceiling.
I remember like looking at that, like you guys don't have like the stanchion baskets down here. Like you guys can't move these around. Like it felt like I was back in the driveway with the cemented in basketball hoop.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they still have it like that.
Yeah, it was a lot of profanities said to me that night, I'm sure, a lot of different things. But at my time, I think it was Stu Morrill who had that team rolling, and that was sort of
the legend.
Yeah, I mean, J.C. Carroll, those kind of guys, it just were like those guys they were tough, but I mean, we had nothing more than wanted to go down there and win those games, and I want to say we at least won one when we went in there, but. It's a fun place. I mean, it's a really fun place to play, even as a visitor. If you thrive in those kind of environments, and you enjoy kind of sending home whatever it is, 13, 14, 15,000 people upset, then that's the place that you want to go, because you're going to have that opportunity on Wednesday night.
All right. He's Nick. I'm Ramey. Listen to us on Wednesday, 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock tip on 95.5 FM. And on the varsitynetwork.com. That'll do it for this episode of the 2464 pod. Peace.